Happy Monday, everybody.
Hello.
We'll be started here with weird things in just a moment. It's October 12.
Man, it's a combination of, coronavirus, meaning I don't have to take my kids to school. So Monday mornings, even though Monday is a long day, right?
Yeah,
you
we
hit the
do a
ground
lot.
running and just keep going until after the sun goes down. But it used to be even longer because I would have to take Penny to school. But something about, like, it's kind of no joke the way something like coronavirus hits you. And you have those thoughts of like, okay, now I know it's not likely I'm going to get killed by this thing, but in some mild way, you sort of do feel that new lease on life thing when you stop having full body tremors and fevers and stuff. And all of that is to say, I mean, like I'm going on, 10 days now of running nearly a half marathon every single morning.
Wow.
I mean, it's 3 to 4 hours a day. And I say running, that's half
Jog
jogging,
walking.
half walking.
Yeah.
But still, man, I mean, I'm burning 1,000 to 1,700 calories every single day
That's
of
great.
pure exercise.
That's good. Yeah, that's the way to do it, And replace that with healthy meal options, healthy calories.
Yeah.
I could never. I'll go and walk, but for whatever reason, I don't know how to get into jogging or running. Just practically, I just don't have the endurance in my legs.
For me, partly because I was so debilitated by the illness, it was like, just walk. Let me see if I can walk 2 miles. And it's astonishing how much you can get done from checking messages, and you could text while walking,
Right.
and listen to audiobooks and all that stuff. What?
I just had this idea of like nobody knowing in your neighborhood, like whatever, you just got over this and you're out on the sidewalk and you're like, I can do it! I'm walking!
Not today, death!
You throw your walker off into the road.
I'm doing it! They're like, oh, that brushwood. Why did we move here?
Oh, man.
I like where I froze.
Oh yeah, you got
That's a good moment. It's a victory pose.
Freeze
We might
face.
leave it the whole way.
Also joined hot off his politics stream.
Hello.
Oh,
God,
ahoy,
he's
Justin.
Robert Young.
Hey, Juice.
Man, this hair in the back is getting long enough. I think I'm gonna have to start ponytailing it up when I'm in a hat or something.
I finally listened to the Eminem kill shot like 2 years later, where he does think of Machine Gun Kelly about like you name yourself for a gun, but you've got a man bun.
The man bun's so interesting because I think the cooler the better you actually look with the man bun, the worse, the more people can rag on you for wearing one. I think. You know, I think.
Well, that's interesting. So
you're
if you look like you don't give any F words and you just are trashy as hell, nobody's gonna bug you about your man bun.
Right.
But if you're
wearing a
stylish and-
nice shirt, if you got
it's sort of that
slacks.
uncanny valley, right? To be honest, I ran into the same thing when I used to dye my hair bright green. I changed the way I dressed to be much more frat boy, polo shirts and tucked in, and that dissonance upset people more. I mean, nobody cares about color of hair nowadays, but 25 years ago it was a thing, especially if you dressed conservatively, like they wanted to see you all the way punk or not. But man, people really got upset seeing punk hair on a conservative body.
Well, that's like when I would start doing like comedy clubs or playing stuff. My magic was really R-rated. I would always be exceptionally polite, and I would drop F-bombs and blood and all this sort of stuff. And I'd have people tell me afterwards, "We love how you played clean." And I'm like, I scream the F word at the top of my lungs when the trick goes wrong. But people just, because of that image, they just sort of.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Andrew made the clean comic or the clean magician.
They called him the cleaner.
Hey, Justin, how was your stream? Good stream?
Good stream. Got to watch the super informative Judiciary Committee appointing somebody that will never have to retire. So I'm glad that it basically just means that a bunch of senators can just sort of freestyle their one man or one woman show as a way for the nation to better understand somebody that will serve for the rest of her life.
I did hear just a snippet of NPR on the way over, and there was somebody saying, hey, so we all know what's going to happen, right? Republicans are all going to vote for, Democrats are all going to vote against, right? Okay, just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's all performative, except for the fact that they all want the clips that they can run
for the re-election.
About. Yeah. Then they're like standing strong, and it's like I'm standing with you strongly. And it's like, and even then, I would actually like it better if they really just if they just workshopped it and they were just trying to get like wild lines. Like it's like I'm here for you. Can I do it again? I'm here for you.
Oh no! You know what? I should make it seem like exactly. Like I'm there in the thick of it. I'm here for you.
I'm here for.
And they could like workshop it with each other, and they could like, does anybody have any notes? Like, no, I would lean into more twang.
Oh,
like,
I'll tell you what.
Reclaiming my take.
For you.
Reclaiming my take. Reclaiming my take.
Go ahead.
I just said like my take. You know, I got to reclaim my take to do another one. I love your description of an Instagram museum.
Oh yeah, no, it's it basically it is an IG museum where literally they just get to take their picture in front of the Supreme Court nominee and be like, boo, or like yay, and everyone like so all their friends can go like this and retweet it.
Oh my god, yeah.
Except now it's even worse because. Within weeks, celebrities realized it within months. I presume politicians will realize it sometime within the next 5 years. Like, so no, everybody is still like, it's like, yeah, the state of all judiciary in America on the line, and they're like looking down at their tiny little MacBook pinhole camera. It's like, come on. Really? Not even a black magic card?
And like politicians are like, they know what their staffers tell them. And then, but they really consider their staffers so far below them in the intelligence tree that they'll tell them, no, the camera, like, yeah, I've been doing this for years. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I know media,
No, somebody asked me in the chat today, like, why have none of these people at this stage in the pandemic invested in a $60 USB microphone that would make them sound a billion times better? And my answer is because the staffer that's in charge of doing that keeps pinging them on Slack, and the congressperson does not know what Slack is. Like, so there's somebody who's like, hey, just need your address. You can just to DC or to your home.
You can borrow mine.
Yeah, you can borrow mine.
It's literally in my hands.
And he's like, hey, did you get my Slack messages? Yep. All right. Well, I'll just, if you could respond.
I get all messages, son.
Exactly.
I listen to the American message.
Yeah.
I'm Slack for you. That's something. All right, you guys want to do weird things?
Slack is whack.
Slack is what? Slack.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, beautiful people.
Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Well, hello, friends.
And Bryce Castillo.
Hey, everybody, that's me. Hi.
I don't want to be the one that says this.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to start nothing here.
Oh, man, how brave of you that you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Now I've decided. I'm going to do it.
Go.
Brian,
finally.
you're a liar.
Like, my secret is out. I thought I had deceived you all. Puff of smoke. Run away.
I mean, Brian, you don't look like a guy that had COVID. I'm saying you look a little healthy to me.
I didn't run
full of vigor.
11 miles today. You ran 11 miles today.
It was the 5G.
No, I know I did not.
What are you getting at, Maine?
I'm saying you're looking healthy, man. You look like you bounced back and you've been, we're exciting and stuff.
Rosy
which is
cheeked.
Okay. Well, that can happen. 40% of people who get COVID are totally asymptomatic, so I'm kind of a hero for having any symptoms.
Okay, that's cool. All right. No, in all seriousness, I am very, very, very happy to see you've recovered. And then we're talking before the show. Brian's like, yeah, I jogged today, half marathon and all that.
And actually, to give context for that, I think when you experience, number one, such a terrifying thing as getting this, a known killer of a disease or whatever, you know that, it's weird because healthcare professionals all give you this sort of milk toast blessing that it's like, you're probably fine. But that word probably is cold comfort at 2 a.m. when you're racked with chills. And
You're 99.9.
like the odds are really pretty good. It's like they'll say really and then they'll dial it back with pretty good. But it's one of those things like when you get healthy, it's a huge pattern interruption for all the crap food that you've been eating and all the sedentary lifestyle or whatever. So then you get to that point where it's a big deal to even be able to go for a walk around the neighborhood, and then you go for a mile, 2 miles or whatever. So it's like I've just been doubling down on we've talked a bit about this on After Things with kind of, the healthy kick that Justin and I have been on, but man, I'm going to bed earlier, which means I'm waking up earlier, which means I don't want to dabble in all the distractive behaviors that I always have. So I immediately go on a walk or whatever. And so they end up being these 3.5 hour excursions. And it turns out you can walk quite a bit in 3.5 to 4 hours, like 10 or 11 miles.
I love long walks. I love long walks. That's I get excited. It's getting cooler now, the weather, so it's not the sun out there. And I'm like Bilbo. I'm going on an adventure.
And it's great nowadays. All you need is your cell phone and, a credit card in your pocket, and you could just keep walking with the quiet confidence of knowing if you ever want to go home, you could press a car show up, take me home button. And it really does feel like an adventure. I go into a neighborhood having no idea. We talked about it the other day. I took a trail having no idea where it ended up, and I was not worried at all. It's awesome.
And I just kept running. So I'm very glad to hear this, and it is one of these things where part of the fear factor of COVID is that it does affect people differently in their strains of it, your health conditions, all that other stuff, and it's such a scary thing, but it's very very good to see you on the other side of it. And I remember there was a flu 3 or 4 years ago that I swear almost made you hallucinate, but some people are like, oh yeah, and other people no, and you're like, man, so much of these experiences are subjective, and then trying to
and it's also very odd because we are in a very large country for which so much of our population is connected to each other, and yet we don't think of ourselves as a massive, super diffuse and diverse country. We whenever you see oh, look at how New Zealand handled it, and it's like, they're an island that's the population of Iowa. If Iowa was floating out into the sea, then it would be it's a different way of doing it. And so you combine that with the fact that there's so much of a strata of how people are affected by it. And I don't know if there's any way to square that circle in how people's expectations of this disease are.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, you know what, Brian? I have a suggestion for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
You know what? I think your walking's fine. I think you maybe need, they say swimming and water stuff is really kind of even more healthy.
You know what? I got in the pool for the first time in almost a year, but it was only for 20 minutes last week. But maybe I'll head back.
We've thought about maybe taking up something like surfing.
Oh my God. I've always wanted to be able to surf. I've never been able to do it.
Maybe now's the time, man. Now that you've got this new lease on life,
wait a minute. I'm in the middle of Central Texas. Where am I going to surf?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Can't Do.
Wow. Didn't somebody just say I could keep walking and walking with my credit card forever?
Yeah, you could do basically anything, I guess, except surf.
And then you
yeah,
can
bring
hit
that
a
guy
button and a
back.
car will pick you up.
There actually
Yeah.
is a surf joint in Austin, and what they did is they ran a full-on train trestle across a like 3 or 4 foot lake. It's a very, very shallow lake, and what this thing does is it's their rails, picture train rails, full-on train rails, and they've got this thing that runs on the rails with, and now picture a giant plow that is over the sides and in the water. And then this thing runs on this train track, and the plow makes this perfect surfing wave, and it just and it makes it on both sides, and you could just pay for time, and you get a perfect surfing wave in the middle of Central Austin or Central Texas.
We had in Florida, which was crazy. And as a kid, I never got it. And then one day I'm like, oh, and it was this overhead. It was this lake where they had like the cable that went all the way around it on top of the towers.
Yeah. Those are cool because and it's constantly towing.
Water skiing.
Yeah.
I never knew what it was. Then one day we're driving by and I just see people being pulled by a cable in the sky. Going, I'm like, you can do. It was like the first time I saw a monkey rodeo. I'm like, this is a real thing.
You know, and I wonder whether did those go away? Like did like Sea-Doos becoming more cheap? Like, and now anybody could just like, oh no, if you're by a beach, you just rent a Sea-Doo and now you can just tow people and they can do these little skiing things. Because I always imagine that I don't know if I ever saw one of those places in operation growing up in South Florida, but it is iconic in the idea of 70s or 60s what South Florida was to the rest of the nation. Wow, that looks awesome.
Yeah, right. It's I mean they're decent side. Looks like a 3 foot wave, I guess. Maybe 2.5 feet, but big enough for you to ride. And because it's like perfect every single time, then you get to ride it the whole way around.
Oh, that's wonderful. On the water skiing thing, I guess they're called cable parks. So if you look up the cable park, because I guess looks like, it's like we put in a few towers there, and kind of that's another interesting sort of approach.
Yeah, I guess part of me wants to say I'm surprised that I'm seeing. I guess I could think of like 3 of them I've seen more recently. Wow, these guys are good. Sorry, we're distracted.
They won the GoPro awards apparently.
But it seems so gimmicky when I first saw it that I was like, well, this seems cumbersome and crazy. I don't believe it'll be around forever. But I was wrong. It seems like that's a fine way to do it.
Well, I think this version of it is a little bit different than the initial idea, which was, I think, a little bit more. It reminded me of the athleticism of one of those like 50s machines that was supposed to help you lose weight by just jiggling your belly really fast. Like it was always one of
lean back on the belt and it just goes.
What we're looking at here is they have all sorts of like ramps and sticks like rails. It's like a skate park meets a water park. Like they literally staircases, literally guys going up and down a staircase that's out of the water.
It looks like they've flooded a very flat skate park, honestly.
Yeah. It's good news, Venice Beach. This is your future after global warming.
Wakeboard cable park in the Philippines.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Well, Brian, I'm sorry, but I want you to go out in the ocean.
Okay, I'm in. I was thinking about that the other day. As a matter of fact, this morning I jogged past a pond and the wind was rippling the water, and I was like, "Oh man, I miss water. I miss being in the water. I miss the ocean."
Well, I think that the ocean's healthy. It's revitalizing, and I think the best part about it is it can let you, get close to nature.
Yes, I mean I certainly feel at peace with the world. I feel, calm. But when you say nature, you don't mean like living critters, right?
No, like water, Brian.
Okay.
Water's part of nature.
Yeah, no, that's
sand
great.
is part of nature. Everything that's within the sand and the water are part of nature. Right? You would agree that those are all good things?
I mean. Yes, and
okay, all right. Let's Sorry, let's make sure that the old pessimist Brian Brushwood is just scared of his own shadow. You know, you got water, right, Brian?
Yeah, sure.
You got sand.
Yep.
Everything therein. Boom. We're done.
Provisional, yes.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, the
Here's
best kind of yes. Provisional yes.
and for the people in our chat who just said sharks, wrong. Flat out wrong. Flat out
Come
wrong.
on.
It's not sharks.
Yeah, there's no sharks.
Okay.
There's no sharks in this ocean that I'm going to go to. That's why. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at this. This is what happens when I wear a green shirt. Look at this. I am at one with the ocean right now.
We're chroma keying Brian right now. We can see the
embrace.
ocean under his shirt.
Screen capture.
So, yeah, there are no sharks.
Just a shark?
You know. But the good news is, we've talked about this before, and this is what's kind of really cool, is it for places like in Australia, like, which, great place to go find sharks, they're using drones, okay?
To spot them?
So, yes. So when people are out there swimming, they fly drones, and so there's some great footage. Headline, pro surfer in Australia has close call with dangerous shark, closing beach. This drone operator is flying his drone out over the water because it's great looking overhead, and sees there's the surfer paddling out, and there's the great white right behind him.
Oh my gosh.
Like now, two things. And the drone had a speaker on, like, hey, you might want to get out of the water. This happens all the time. Like, sharks come very close to people in a lot of areas, and they're not interested in you. They may see what you are, and they realize you're not what they want, whatever. Most like the shark bites and stuff that happen around beaches happen in murky water for the most part, etc. And so it shows two things. One, great, here's the tech to help people kind of stay clear of sharks. Two, this probably happens more often we want. I think we saw some like police camera footage too, where you saw some guy swimming out there, and we look overhead, there was like, a shark, near some guy swimming.
Yeah,
So-
well, and I know that when I went to Australia, we went to Gold Coast, and they were bragging how Gold Coast, they're sensible, and they have nets to keep the sharks out. Not like New South Wales, where I guess this kind of thing happens.
Yeah. So, and again, it's, what's practical, what's not, how much you want to close up the ocean, how much you don't, etc. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to see, and I think it's kind of a good idea to sort of this technology, because when you have people and large fish together, and you're watching, this shark is definitely swimming around this person.
Wow.
Checking them out.
Well, and what's interesting is when you compare it to, I would imagine it's fairly cumbersome and expensive to put up nets all around public beaches, but you could create virtual nets, because what you don't really care about whether or not a shark goes near the shore when there are no people around. But if you have enough drones, you can just, what you care about is making sure sharks and humans don't get close to each other.
Yeah, and just so you know, in the video of this interaction, what we saw the great white come up close, see what he was, and then it swam away. And this is like when
It
I was,
almost like it was scared, like
grossed out.
It was just like,
yeah.
Oh.
Like that's where I did my shark dives, were there. And the great whites, they would come up real close to me. And if you bumped them, they would go away, because he wasn't like, I'm going to eat you. He was like, are you a thing I might eat? They get close. And sometimes when it's harder to see, they use their teeth to tell if you're something they're going to eat, which is not good for you. But, and that's a lot of that happens. A lot of shark encounters, like you go scuba diving, there are sharks there. They're like, oh, who are you? Oh, boring, moving along. But
that was
this thing happens way more.
That was one of the most surreal moments. In college, I did spring break in I think Cozumel. I might be wrong. Probably somewhere else. But in Mexico, and so I went diving. And you're amazed by the coral, you're amazed by all the tropical fishes, but the surreal inability to process what I was seeing came when we came up to a coral shelf, and our guide pointed at it, and the way I perceived it, because I wasn't prepared for a shark, I perceived, okay, there's something underneath this coral, and I saw, well, there's something moving over there, and there's something moving over there, and it was a good like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 before my brain was just like, head and tail of just a simple nurse shark or whatever. It's funny how you get that break in reality.
Yeah, I'll show you a fun photo of a tiger shark. It is, and that was like, yeah, the first time I ever did a dive, I kept talking to the dive master. Oh, am I going to see any sharks? Am I going to see sharks? No, you're not going to see any sharks. Not going to see any sharks. I jump in there. Literally, the moment I clear my mask, the first thing I see is a nurse shark. And as you
Wow.
notice, like, it's not, divers like, oh, nurse shark, nothing. But if it's the first thing you see in the water and you see a shark and teeth,
Look, man, you always remember your first, the first time
Yeah.
you're face to face with a freaking shark.
oh my gosh, but yeah. So, the sharks are amazing creatures, and they are one of the things that we want to do. Is things like drone stuff is good because it allows them to continue doing their own thing, and we want to. They're a very vital part of our ocean, our ecosystem, and a lot of things are very dependent upon them. And we want to find ways in which they can live in the ocean, we can kind of go in the ocean, and we can kind of not, have an impact on each other.
Yeah.
So,
Man, that really will be wild because right now we live in an age where various texts have talked about how Generation Z or iGen, as they call them, they sort of break before and after social media. There's different patterns, and so there's talk about different generations. But they talk about how iGen, anybody who was born after or raised after the advent of social media, tends to be much more conservative because they can accomplish more. They get their driver's license later. They lose their virginity later. They move out of their parents' houses later. There's sort of a conservatism, partly because we're able to virtualize so much of adventuring and going out. In an age where Gen Xers would have to after school you would hop around on rocks and get into fights with friends. Then nowadays you do that virtually. The fights are on Street Fighter and the hopping on rocks is Super Mario. I wonder if technology is going to take us to a place where the reverse will happen, where there'll be drones, personal safety drones around you, or there's an expectation of, yeah, sharks are never a problem because there's always drones flying around. And if there was a shark, it would warn me of a shark. So I'm just going to go anywhere and do anything, and all the technology will keep me safe.
Maybe. The danger comes in sharks move really fast underwater, and they can go from point A to B to point. You can be from 0 sharks to a lot of sharks in a heartbeat.
In a couple of minutes, yeah.
Yeah, like when we did a thing where we dropped a bunch of chum in the water in the Bahamas, and like you could, there was like reef sharks and some sand sharks and stuff around us, and one tiger, and you drop that in, every fish for miles sweeps in, and everything else there, and then the bull sharks showed up, which we didn't see anything. Never saw a single bull shark until all of a sudden there was food in the water.
Wow.
So, that's the thing. So this is a photo of a tiger in the Bahamas, but there was up to 2 years ago, there was a horrific, like the person got a shark attack. I don't know if they identified the species yet, but for the most part, like in the Bahamas, like they're around people all the time. You can see them. You can do these shark encounters where you sit down in a group and put your hands together, and then they feed like a tiger shark, comes close. So I mean that's that, and that shark there also kind of is people. This is in Australia. This is one of like the 16 great whites that was around us that would just swim right up, bump. If it wanted to eat me, it would have eaten me. So we're looking at a shark it's an over my shoulder shot of a great white coming up. And that's the thing that I sort of learned was like, yeah, no, when it wants to kill you, it'll kill you. If it wants to find out what you're made of, it might accidentally kill you. And if it's just kind of curious, it's like, whatever.
It is a weird thing to think about biting in a non-aggressive kind of way, but man, we're seeing that with our puppy because it's very clearly out of excitement and affection that it's like, now let me kisses. This is so great. Let me give you needle sharp puppy teeth. and boy, all the books say, if that happens, react with a loud yelp. And it's like, no need for the text on this one because those are sharp and that's easy to do.
Can we hear your whelp?
Oh no! Usually it's like oh no! like it's more shocked. Like I feel like Charlie Brown getting set up by Lucy over and over and over again. It's like, what did I think was going to happen? Of course, it's going to be lick. Everything's great. This is so great. Chomp.
Well, I'll tell you what you can think is going to happen and what will happen when you go to patreon.com/weird things. You might think that it is just a total scam.
I
but
did.
You would be wrong. Well, it is not that, Brian. So please stop saying it.
Okay.
What this really is a great way that you can support this very podcast. Keep us independent, keep us doing this each and every week. Head on over there, patreon.com/weird things, and get the After Things podcast, which is our discussion of business and entrepreneurship and all other issues that comes across our mind. Patreon.com/weird things.
Kind of a cool story about using artificial intelligence. One of the things AI, you think of it, think of prediction. Think of like AI is really good at making predictions. Like this is most likely this, right? And looking at images, NASA and some researchers using artificial intelligence were able to identify craters on Mars using this. The AI was able to go over, we have tons and tons of images from Mars Surveyor of the Martian surface. And now they're using AI to help go process this images and find interesting details.
So help me to. Oh, is this a case of image enhancement, or because at first when you were teeing this up, I was thinking, oh, maybe like old craters that have been eroded over time, they're able to figure out. But you're saying fresh craters, are they particularly small, or what about them would be hard for humans to notice?
Well, it's the sheer volume. You think about where we've had a satellite over the surface of Mars trying to record, every square inch of that we can. And so, it's identifying craters, 13 feet across. And so it's just not effective to have a human go through and look at all of
Got
this.
it. Well, and especially, I guess, also for fresh craters where you would have to compare before and after of areas that it's surveyed more than once.
Yeah.
That seems like a good job for AIs.
Yeah, and it's a very neat thing to have done. We've seen examples of there were kids who were studying like the Mars image data set, and they found like a lava tube or something like that.
Wow.
And I remember like looking at some of the first Mars photos. I was transfixed because we talk about like the spiders, which are these like formations in the southern part, like carbon dioxide crystals that form these really cool formations. And who knows, what other weird and interesting geology we're going to see there. But AI can help us find something, tell me you got something cool.
So per NASA, normally it would take a human about 40 minutes to look at one of these context camera images. This AI now can scan that image in about 5 seconds.
Good God. Awesome.
And that's just a matter of how much processing power you want to throw at it too.
That's insane. I mean, we're just gonna know. I mean, compared to the kind of tech we have up there now and how rapidly tech has sort of evolved, especially in those cameras and sensors, and then the idea of what we can do with the data once it comes back, that's massive. I mean, not to mention the fact that getting up there is going to be faster and cheaper.
You know what? On the subject of Mars, I don't think we talked about this on Weird Things, but a few weeks back, I could have sworn I saw a headline suggesting that there were indications that under the polar ice caps, there were extremely briny, extremely salty liquid lakes. Am I making that up, or is that something?
No, we did it. We did actually cover that.
We did talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But it's a thing that we went from as Mars, a dry rock to like it gets used all that, because like I'll read ahead, I'm like, wait, did I read this? Like, oh, this is a confirmation now, and now we have more data. There's kind of, I think it will be a very growing area for every form of science is add the word computational before it. And we've had in astronomy, we've certainly for image processing, we've been doing that for years. It's one of the places where like image processing actually got started, was both from like the spy industry, like how to get better images out of satellites. And then with astronomy is like, how do you look at this galaxy that's far off and take the spectrograph and turn it into data? But now with larger data sets and image sets, that's going to be another area where you're going to see computational astronomy, where people are like, oh, how do we take these different data sets and identify stuff? And I think it'll be kind of exciting because we're going to find out entirely new details and layers that just the signal didn't surface by itself. I wish I had an example to make my point, but it'll be cool, guys.
What's funny is like, I think you're so right that what you just heard was the sound of four minds trying to figure out how much more right there is, and the answer is
No.
not more right.
That was the sound of my brain giving 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, and give you an example, an early form of that was, when we looked at the sky and then we noticed over time that objects moved. And part of the origins of calculus and stuff was because you had Isaac Newton and even people trying to figure out how are things moving this way? What pattern is this following? Why is this going? And so much of the roots of a lot of modern computation calculus actually comes from looking up and seeing things there and trying to figure out the formula for it. And then just going beyond that.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've talked a bit about. The stuff covered in The Social Dilemma, and that's one of the things that gives me pause to want to react negatively to all the data collection that stuff like Google and Facebook do. Because on the one hand, that's very powerful. It can be used to sell us, dish soaps and tchotchkes that we happen to be thinking about. But on the other hand, you think about before you can even start writing and inventing calculus to explain the motion of the wandering stars of planets, it took eons, thousands of years of data collection and prediction. And you begin with the data first, and then you get to the explanation. And so it's hard for me to want to react negatively to any entity, whether they're trying to sell me something or not, collecting data, since that's the first step to any kind of understanding.
I guess it would kind of come down to how they're incentivized to use it, because you see this, if I do a search, I have eczema, right? And if I have to look up I go incognito, or I use private browsing in Safari because I don't want my Google search to be filled up with a lot of bogus stuff and other things there. And I'd say that if I felt more confident it was actually being used, because one of the things that an area of interest for me is there is so much data, and one of the things I've talked about is using tools we have now to filter through all this people reporting self-reported data and message boards about conditions and stuff.
Oof.
Because there's a lot of data out there to be given. And if you're a pharmaceutical, you might be able to look at 10,000 people talking about a thing and notice trends and say, oh, shoot, this might work or whatever. And so I'd say if that was happening more, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting how and I know my logical mind says that I should look at statistically significant samples. For example, an Amazon rating is a really good proxy, because part of the reason I bought my new smartwatch, the Garmin Vivo Active 4, was because in a world where I was seeing kind of anywhere from 2 stars to 5 stars for the Fitbit latest or whatever, the moment I got to the Amazon rating, it was 2,500 reviews, and it was at 4.5 stars, which meant instantly, statistically significant. It's very unlikely I'm going to buy this and feel like a chump. But as much as I know that in my smart head, I am inordinately swayed, because what I'll do is I'll go to Reddit and I'll search for individual accounts of people who write a paragraph or 3 about, in casual conversation. And I know that's not right, but I can't help myself, because my monkey brain wants to hear the individual personal story.
I do the same thing. And I would defend it by saying that the problem is there's a very effective system right now to try to game Amazon, and that I'm suspicious when I see way too many reviews on a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's way too many and too high or whatever. And the Reddit thing is, if you read an engaging personal account, and if the quality of the writing, sometimes it can be more persuasive. One persuasive, let me tell you this, versus 1,000. I loved it. Hubby liked it.
Right.
And they'll do tricky stuff on Amazon. I remember I wanted to rebuy something I had bought in the past, and I go through my order history and I click on it, and it's a completely different item. It seems like all sorts of shady stuff is out there in terms of just co-opting old listings and assuming old reviews.
Oh, wild. Oh, because the code, to Amazon, that's just a SKU number.
Right.
And you can update the photo, and you can update the name of the thing over time. And maybe what started off as a beach towel with SpongeBob SquarePants becomes a miracle health cure for your eczema or whatever.
And it's fun because you can sometimes see old comments about the other product still on that page.
That's crazy. I can't believe I've never encountered that notion until now.
Well, You know what would help, Brian?
What would help?
If we took your dog. What's your dog's name, by the way?
Joyful.
Say the full name. Say the full name.
Joyful Federal Agent Bryce Doug Neshkop Castillo Brushwood.
I can't believe that stuck around. I'm so excited that stuck around.
It was the deal was sealed when Penny loved it. And then it was locked in stone.
Well, I know you love your dog. Do you love your dog, Brian?
I do. I do. A little bit less when she's biting my face.
Yeah. You know, if you really loved your dog, Brian.
Yes.
You really loved your dog, you'd give your dog the best chance possible at success and surviving this
world. I swear,
world.
if this is a Montessori school for dogs, I'm tapped out. I can't.
No, Brian.
Oh, good.
This is the future. This is augmented reality goggles for dogs.
Oh my God, yes, please.
So this is a story that I flagged, and it was also pointed out to his Twitter because it's just too good to ignore. The U.S. Army is testing augmented reality goggles for dogs.
That's awesome.
And there's a photo of this. I don't know if they have if you find, where is this from? The Verge has an actual photo of the dog with the AR goggles, and it is the most adorable, awesome thing. This is the Ready Player One sequel that you want. Okay.
In the chat, they have it. Dead Polymers says more like augmented reality doggles. Hey, by the way, the dog wearing virtual reality goggles looks exactly how you would picture it. It's awesome.
Like a Rottweiler maybe, and he looks like he's wearing one of those prototypes. You know when they show prototypes of like, oh, we had to prototype by putting cell phones
with
taping
wires all over it.
Yeah.
It looks like a big bad in a Chippendales Rescue Rangers movie, and the dog is named Baron von Barkington.
I had my eyes removed so that I could be more powerful.
So it looks like, the funny part is it looks like really high tech, and then you get a closer look, and I swear to God, I have that. It's the one field of view, the thing in the corner. I think I have that same imager somewhere.
Oh, that's
strapped
funny.
to a really cool looking like goggles. So you're thinking like the goggles getting like Terminator vision, but it's getting a little thing in the corner, which is cool. It's not like it's complaining about like, oh, dude, the foveation on this is horrible. So
yeah.
I mean,
I guess like literally just keeping the goggles on the dog is 99% of it, right?
The dog looks so chill. Also, chat room says dogmented reality.
So there are a lot of applications for this because, we use dogs a lot, both in policing and military and rescue and other stuff, and being able to communicate with them. Generally, you do it, voice, because you try to keep in line sight of your dog, but you can't always do that. And you can also give the dog other kinds of bits of information. Maybe not letting it read a Twitter feed, but certain visual stuff that could pop up could tell it stuff. You could put sensory stuff on there. If, let's say, the dog gets close to a thing, the trainer doesn't realize, like, really, smoke or something else that you want the dog to stay clear of, or you need to call it back. So it's a very clever idea.
Well, and not only that, I suppose also there would be proximity detectors. It would sort of maybe show a path to get back, or show where its handler is.
I don't know how good their map reading skills are.
Well, no. But I mean, like, for example, you train the dog so that when everything flashes red, that means go back to your handler. And then maybe there's some kind of guidance to let you know when you're getting close to the handler.
Give army dogs a crazy taxi arrow.
And Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And Hearthstone.
At the next
I don't
fire
need the
hydrant,
competition.
turn left.
So anyhow, very cool, very interesting approach. And, we use dogs so much for a lot of purposes, like trying to find survivors, and things like this, investigating crime scenes or, disaster scenarios, whatever. They're even like their ability to detect like certain kinds of diseases and stuff. And also another option for this might be too, is you might be able to have a trainer who's the highly skilled trainer. And then you might be able to just have a program where it's easier for, the AI to talk to the dog to get, well, gosh, AI dogs, do we want this?
Ooh.
I mean, let me ask you a question though. with where we are in terms of like microphones and sensors and speakers and how cheap everything is there an augmented reality where a human could effectively have an equivalent of the natural sensory abilities of a dog? Like, could you, like, hear or smell, like, have it represented to you in whatever level? Like, the reason why we have dogs is because they're able to find things better, but can we make up that gap with tech?
Well, I think
No,
we've talked at some point over the last decade about electronic noses,
Yeah.
computer sampling things. And then we've also talked about how there are devices, for example, little pressure points. They would be like a vest, and it would tickle your back, and you would eventually get an intuitive sense of what things are happening because the brain is really good at training itself. Or little wafers that you would put on your tongue that would electrically kind of poke you. It feels like a crackling on your tongue, and then your brain just sort of gets used to the idea in an intuitive way. Like what they were talking about is like feeding it with either Twitter trends or financial data, and then the idea being that after 4 weeks of having corn futures pumped into your back, you would be all like, "Oh my God, I think there's about to be a crash in corn futures," at some intuitive level. So certainly, I think the pathway is being cleared towards exactly that.
the scent is the hardest one because your nose is 1,000 different like sensors for detecting all kinds of different stuff, and that's why they still use, they'll use dogs for detecting, like, does somebody have drugs, what's going on there,
Yeah.
because we can build a single use device that can maybe detect something pretty well. It will get there eventually, but that's the hard part.
Right now, for
Um,
humans, the best way to tell if you have drugs is just to see if they're a real chill dude.
yeah.
Sunglasses, check. Cocky
Uh,
attitude, check.
Did somebody brought up Boston Dynamics in here, and they're the ones that made the really cool and freaky dog, like robot dog and walkers. But we tell you about the last time we saw one of them was uh, I'm going to send this to Bryce. Um,
Yeah, we definitely kind of broke down the what we perceive to be, if I'm remembering correctly, a fairly woefully inadequate advertisement for the spot. In that it looked like
It
a really
could
great
walk
solution
around a
for a
construction
problem that
site.
nobody had.
well, I'll show you one that somebody found an application for it,
Oh,
and
right
it's
on.
very related.
And I think we did.
So
I think we did talk also a few months ago about. Was it in China where they were using these to alert people in parks, saying like, "Hey,
or somewhere.
keep separated.
Keep distant.
I'm the
Keep
dog."
distant. Not
So,
because of coronavirus, because we don't have any here. Our numbers remain unchanged. There is no coronavirus in China. I am a dog.
I would not lie. Imagine, I don't know, you're testing some equipment, like, I don't know, a rocket, and it crashes, and you
Oh,
want to be able to have something go up to the scene.
Oh my god, it's in the smoke like a superhero.
oh, that's amazing. So, I guess the precursor to this would be like the bomb diffusing robots on treads, but this
Yeah.
is going to be able to go over uneven terrain and walk right up to. Is this a SpaceX thing?
Yes, this was months ago. They had one of their ground tests where the thing blew up and flipped over, and they apparently people spotted a Boston Dynamics robot walking through the still smoking debris with its cameras to get up close and see what's going on.
And in a case
Wow.
where at any moment it might explode, number one, that's obviously the safer way to do it. But also, you've got to get something in there before it explodes because you got to get an up close picture of what the rupture is before you miss the chance.
So imagine, this is freaky footage. Imagine this was a world where up until now the Boston Dynamics, the robot dog, had been a secret, and you have this is
Yeah.
footage where people are watching this. Like, this is footage. There are people there who have like cameras mounted on houses to watch SpaceX facility in Texas to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
And so they're on there watching this for the first time, seeing
God, that would be so great. What looks like an alien exoskeleton technology.
It's just
walking around.
crazy. Yeah. A crazy supervillain stuff. I mean, even the idea thinking that it would be like, if we didn't know that this was a thing that was created out of as a robot. I wonder if there would even be guesses of like, wow, what kind of animal could survive this? Like a specially bred thing.
Imagine, Brian, you're doing a Modern Rogue episode, and your toothpaste experiment goes awry, and the whole garage collapses, and you hear scratch, 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 and strange metal robot dog over you. Come with me if you want to live.
I will lead you to safety.
So, the future's crazy.
That's
Future's
amazing.
crazy. You want to do picks?
Yeah, dude. I haven't watched a lot over the last week because I've been walking, but yeah, you know what? I will. I've been consuming. I just finished the second book today, but I'm digging on the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn series. It's the trilogy. It's got a really interesting magic dynamic. I think I mentioned it when I was starting book one, but it's fun because book one you get a sense of the video game magic rule book. And then in book two, they start to enhance and show exceptions to the rules or stuff, which is fun. And I'm starting book three now, having a good time with it.
Very cool.
My pick is The Boys, wrapped up its second season. I loved it. I thought it was. I thought it landed the plane. It continued to add a new dimensions to a very exciting and fun world. I think the guy who plays Homelander, whose name I need to learn because I think he should
Anthony
get an
Starr.
Emmy nomination. Anthony Starr needs to get nominated for an Emmy. Like I don't know if there is a character on television since like Stringer Bell or Tony Soprano or something where it's like, that these are bad people, but you really just want to see them continue to ping pong through this world. Just such an amazing, it's a good character. It's an exceptional performance.
Absolutely.
And I loved it.
I would say poor choice of words, though. They did not land the plane. Otherwise, this season would have had a different trajectory.
No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but awesome job.
I got a question about The Boys. Normally, when you can tell that somebody is doing a thing ripped out of actual headlines or real moments from history, it takes me out of the story. For example, like Battlestar Galactica, they did a pretty good job of hiding the fact that they were secretly, they called it like Cylon blood would heal diseases or whatever, but secretly it was about fetal stem cells or whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I listened to the writer's room that I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is what they're doing. And it took me out of it when the election was really just a straight up Trump v. Gore redux, ballot stuffing thing. Did I say something else? What did
Trump?
I say? Oh, sorry, Bush Gore. But for some reason, The Boys is much more naked and transparent with what they're taking out of the headlines, and I don't mind it one bit. That's definitely George W. Bush's speech after 9/11. That's definitely
how
the
far
memes.
into it are you, too?
Oh, I'm all caught up.
Yeah, and so I would say that, but it's one of these things where sometimes there's an example in art where people go, we're going to make a political message, but then sometimes they happen to be really great storytellers, and we're going to deal with these complications as these come along, but we have a message. And then by the time the story goes through the really good story brain, I'm like, I don't know if you made the point you wanted to, but this was really entertaining.
Yeah.
And I would say that was an example because you had an opportunity here that was a great story and you took it, which shifts your narrative in a way that's like, I loved it. I don't want to, we'll spoiler free here. Season one, I was like, man, they nailed that ending of it because it was like the stakes have changed. We got closure, not what we wanted, but we got it. And season two, this is textbook for how you can make people, I think, happy with where it goes.
And apparently, and I have not read the comic, but there is an element that is like kind of foundational to the very beginning of the comic that they still haven't pulled the trigger on. And I'm thrilled. I'm excited. As soon as they ended that season, and I'm like, what a rich new world we have. I loved it.
Yeah.
I got a pick. This has been coming out for a few weeks now, and I think they've got a few more before they wrap it up. But did any of you get a chance? I think it was a year or maybe longer ago. There was kind of a multimedia story that was posted online called 17776 from John Boyce, the future of college football, and this
I saw it retweeted by Bryce and the Bryces of the world.
and so it's this kind of perspective on what does it look like in a world where humans are safe and they're not multiplying and they are well kept and they are all finding just ways to entertain themselves. And the idea is that they keep coming up with new ways of what football looks like in
because
tens of thousands of
war
years.
remains a perpetual allegory for war, basically, or
no, it's I don't know. I wouldn't say that. It's kind of a post scarcity almost sort of world. There's not really worry about money or jobs or anything.
Got it.
So they've got a new follow-up series of that out now called 20. I don't know a good way. 17776 is really easy to say. 20,020, which is a kind of a sequel. It takes place obviously about 3,000 years after the last one, and there's a new concoction of football that has been dreamed up by the satellites. That also this takes the perspective of this is from deep space satellites, and so they're just watching everything going on at Earth at all times and keying in on what the humans are doing. And what's really nice is I think they do a very good job of having both this textual side to it where you're reading conversations and dialogue and you're using just simple formatting things to separate speakers and voices. But then each installment also has video accompaniments to them as well. And if you've ever seen any of the John Boy's videos where he uses Google Maps and Google Earth to make these really interesting and lo-fi sorts of geographical based video elements, this ties in exactly like that. And so I don't know, I think it's great. They're coming out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays on Secret Base, which is a new vertical for SB Nation. But it's fascinating, and they've got an interesting story of what does it look like if there is 111 football fields that are stretching across the earth, and there are all sorts of new rules for what you do with that.
So yeah, I think safe to say that this is in the far future speculative fiction
Absolutely.
Realm, and not necessarily in the you got to be into college football realm.
Right. There is only there's only been one chapter in this current run that they've put out where I had to actually stop and go like, I don't really know what they're talking about. But most of the time they do a very good job of describing, oh, this is how, that in the 20th century they would do it like this, and now it's the 200th century. So I think it's really cool. 20,020. There you go. We'll have the link in the show notes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Andrew?
I've been using this tool lately, and it's been on my radar for the other people using it. And then it's one of those things where I'm like, at first I'm like, it seems okay, but I don't know, not for me. And then I needed to do a thing and started using it more, and that's Notion, Notion.so. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but
I don't remember hearing it.
So it's a way you can use it as a personal productivity tool, or you can use it with teams. And where Slack sort of ends, kind of like the idea is Notion begins. So it's a way to do group documents, create really cool stuff. You can go in there and create a page, and you can embed spreadsheets on it. You can put tables, other stuff, just write text, embed pages within pages. You can make a page public. It's just imagine like if Google Docs had kept evolving. And that's kind of and they've got, it's really worth it if you do any kind of personal productivity or any kind of team stuff. It's worth taking a look at and playing around with, or just watching the videos to see what it can do. It's like I've been having to make like notebooks of notes on stuff, and I can just put them in a Notion doc, then create a page in the Notion doc, a link to it, whatever. I can create shared ones that other people can collaborate on. And the ability to just pull images and other kinds of content into it is just amazing. So Notion.so, I would say check it out, and it's on different mobile versions too. I'm really underselling it, but I would say that I would say for anybody who does anything at all ever with their hands or mouth,
Is
um,
is it similar to the business model of Slack, where it's free up until you're a grown-up business, and then they figure out a way to charge you? Or
yeah, you can use it by yourself for free, and then if you have a team and you bring team members on, then it's where it starts to get more. But I would say as a personal productivity tool, like even play with it, it's free, and you can share stuff with guests, using that. Um, I think it's a really, like I said, I think it's a very, very useful tool. I've been using it a lot now because to organize notes and thoughts. It's just I needed something. I put a lot of stuff in Apple Notes, which I think has actually evolved and is great. I do a lot of stuff in Google Docs, which is not so great now. It hasn't evolved.
Mhm.
Google Docs is really frustrating. It's a product from 2010, not from 2020. This feels like you can embed audio in this, video in this. You pull links in there. They're really good at putting all the stuff in there. It'd be like if we sat down to say, let's create a really cool documentation and group work experience. Anything you could kind of want for it, I think is in there.
I like its layout. Its layout is very, the page you're on is what matters, where I think a lot of productivity tools get very menu focused and menu obsessed, where this is like very about as clear and uncluttered as you can make a product like this.
And you can in seconds. Let's say you needed to share something with people. You can go create a page. You can pull in a header. It has a thing like, oh, just pull from Unsplash your header image for it. As you see here, we're looking at a thing with a pretty image there. Pull it use an icon like it's very emoji friendly for enjoys. Write whatever you need on it. Now get a public link and go share it with everybody. And if you wanted to get information out on Twitter or create a page to do something, I think it's a very different way of sort of sharing stuff, of kind of moving somewhere between the website and the document model, which I haven't thought much about that space. The idea they've been they do those things poorly, but together I'm very impressed with it. And I don't even think I've even begun to tap it.
That's cool. Wow. It seems really
it's also very easy to sign up. It's like you just go there and you're like, yes. And then it says, you want to use your Google account? It's like, yes. And then now I have an account.
And I think, I think you're right about Google Docs and to some extent like Microsoft Office being kind of stuck in the past, right? Like I get frustrated if I get like Google, or if I get a Word document, because then I got to take it into Google. But then you look at Google Docs and there hasn't been any major changes. I mean, that's kind of why I switched off of Gmail, because Gmail hasn't really evolved in the past few years other than, small incremental things.
This is pretty cool. It says, welcome to Notion. Here are the basics. And it gives you kind of a rundown of all your to-dos to get familiar. And the first thing it says is click anywhere and just start typing. So I did. And then I realized I'm typing on the list of, like, I'm modifying the how to use it doc. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry. That's how surprised I was.
If you just hit /, it gives you a list of, I want to create a list. I want to create, they did so much stuff, so intuitive, that I was really impressed with. Here's a little thing to think about with Google Docs. Like Google Docs is like, it's 2020 and everything has to be a page. There's no way around it. Everything is.
Oh, Andrew, you're kind of breaking up for us. Can you say that again? Take that back to it's 2020.
Yeah, it's 2020, and with Google Docs, everything is still a page. There's no way to default like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. There's no way to just say continuously like do this. Conversely, Notion, long documents, but you click export, you can export it to Markdown or a PDF, and it will create this beautiful PDF of everything you did. And so I would love to see, Brian, your thoughts on it, because it might be like for a lot of your episode creation and stuff like this, it has a really cool ability to sort of work pretty fluidly between, let me just brainstorm, create a page here, etc.
Yeah, is there any equivalent to, especially for podcast layout and stuff, we tend to use just the cells in like an Excel style spreadsheet in Google Docs. I assume that there's something like that built in here?
Like a sheet based.
Yeah, if you go click on the uh, the forward slash, you'll see this sort of option of like, I want to add a bulleted list, to do list, and then you get into stuff like table, inline, a board. You can do a like they call it a Kanban board. You can do a gallery. Uh, you know, so all sorts of other stuff to be able to
Oh, there
drop
it is.
in
Yeah,
and
yeah.
add
There's
content.
a table.
Interesting.
Very cool.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Notion.so.
So Notion.so.
Oh,
Sweet.
yeah. Look at that.
Oh.
Sorry, no, I'm not. Yo, what have you done to
Yeah,
me,
no.
Andrew?
Oh.
I was around it. I didn't know what it was, and then one day I'm trying to do a thing. I'm like, oh, let me go try this Notion thing, and I'm like, OMG! And I did like literally wrote 100 pages of stuff super fast because like I was documenting some stuff, and it just really, really was great. So anyhow, it's been weird.
Hey, good stuff, everybody.
Awesome.
Guys, I'm gonna have to bow out of After Things because Andrew Heaton needs some settling here.
Oh,
So
okay.
I will bid you adieu, and I will see you guys for happy hour.
Cool. Thank
Awesome.
you, Justin Robert Young, for joining us,
See ya.
everybody. At Justin R.
I'm
Young.
gonna go charge my phone and get a soda. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
There you go. Hello, everybody. We're gonna do After Things here in a minute. Did you see? I emailed you
Yes.
a very good After Things topic for today. So
Yeah. Let me. I'll be right back. I'm going to leave you holding the fort here.
sure, that's totally fine. Hello, everybody. It's Monday, October 12th, 2020. What are you doing? Oh, he's on the phone. He's on the phone. He's on the phone. He's on the phone, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm going to start After Things here in just a minute. If you have something you would like to send in, a letter, question, comment, concern, troubleshooting, you want to Shark Tank it up, send it in. neshcom@gmail.com. Put subject line After Things. And we might read it here on the show. We got a great one today. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because this is a follow-up. This is a sequel. This is a sequel. Squeakquel. Hopefully for this person, not a squeakquel. Of having reached out to us in the past, which I'm excited for. Okay, things that are going on. It's Monday. We're gonna have Cord Killers in a few hours here. The guys are gonna do happy hour, 4 o'clock Central, and then Cord Killers at 6. We've got Meryl Barr on Cord Killers, so that'll be fun. Tomorrow on Night Attack, we're gonna have comedian and podcaster John Cullen guesting on the show. He's great. And I think we're going to do another round of the Monster Match. So check out the Discord, nightattack.tv/Discord. We've got a whole channel in there called Help Out, where you can help me populate in that tourney system for that. So that'll be a lot of fun tomorrow. And then I think on Thursday, we figured out, last week we did marbles on Thursday night. I think we're going to come back with marbles this week, and they've got a new fun feature on marbles. Brian, I've talked about the marbles streams before.
Oh, sure.
So they've always had this one map called laps, and it's like a circuit, and it would always have a big number, and the number would be like how many people have completed a lap. And at the end, when it hit 0, it would like click this piece over, and you could actually go to the finish line. Now they've like updated it with like just a full. It looks, and it's decked out like a racetrack, and everyone has a lap number and stuff. And one of the interesting new features of that is that you can set how many laps people have to do to finish the race. Do you know what the maximum number of laps you can set is?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna guess 1 million or something.
Well, almost. It's 500. 500 laps at it's like 3 laps per minute, basically.
Oh geez, wow.
So
it would be an endurance. It would be a marathon level endurance feat.
it would be a long one. So I think we might do that on Thursday. Just
Oh, wow.
a special Marbles 500 on Thursday night here on twitch.tv/nightattack. So
And so, do we know what that sound is?
I don't know. It sounded like maybe something on Andrew's side.
What's interesting is I've heard it several times when it's just me and Justin, and
Is
the
Justin
fact
still
that
online?
no,
Well,
or actually, I don't know.
I actually don't know.
He might have just gotten up and.
Well, I'm gonna take a look and see if he's still logged in because he might be.
Yeah, that would be a good clue.
Let's see. No, it's idle. It might just be a street noise thing.
That's so weird because
I've heard it from. I hear street noises from kind of both of them, Andrew and Justin sometimes.
yeah, but it's like
I live near a
that.
street.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Well, I'll keep an ear out for it. I don't think there's anything that it could be for us.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was some kind of feedback loopy thing, but I don't know.
No, we don't have anything set up like that. No idea. But we're just about to get ready for After Things here. Got a good one for After Things today.
Great. So I don't know if you can see it, Andrew, but that new smartwatch I got, I wore it for a week and a half before I even bothered to check out the alternate watch faces on it. And then I was going through, and then I was just stunned to see and thrilled to see the Casio G-Shock.
Yeah, I was looking at your watch there going, man, that's a new watch? And I'm like, oh, I was fooled by the face.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Patented indigo.
There is something that we don't think about much is that, like, one of the things to think about is, like, what gets bigger, like, technology-wise, or what changes? Like, if you turned out the lights on the light switch right now, you would notice all sorts of glowing lights around you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because we put LEDs in everything because LEDs are cheap. They run forever. You never have to replace. They're magic. LEDs are magic. Like, they just don't die. And if that's a thing, but when we were kids, you maybe had a night light, maybe an alarm clock with a little glowy light in there that would go out, but that was kind of it. And now those are everything. Monitors keep getting bigger and more pervasive. And like that watch face where you have that despair, and you look at what's happening now with like what's the ThinkPad and the Fold, the new ones, like the two screens on the outside. We just got this new Dyson vacuum cleaner that has an LCD display on it.
Wow.
And you think about how the idea of how this sort of eventually the entire surface of devices might become that way.
Yeah.
And
it's so interesting that like there's, because I think on the low end there still isn't that it hasn't risen boats on that side. Like I just got a new air popper for a new popcorn air popper, and you know what that doesn't have on it? An on-off switch.
Oh, really?
It doesn't even have.
It's just like, hey man, I'm just gonna be here. I'm your new roommate. You can call me Larry. Just whenever there's popcorn, I'll be there.
Sometimes those things are made by we bought sometimes completely different sectors. It's like, there's some company in China that's making super dirt dumb toasters and air poppers and stuff. But like I bought, I told you I bought that, I wanted to get try to buy a game device, and it's that knockoff, like it's a $15 device. It's got a full color display and a chargeable battery.
I mean, that alone, time travel back to that's one of the things. It's like, if you could time travel back to the past, would you go? No, I would not. I would not go back to the year 2000. I would not go back to, I don't care how much Microsoft stock I'd be able to buy. I wouldn't be able to have that. It's like, if you look at it in terms of things you have access to, you're better off today. We're all better off today.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, you go back and you're like, I'm a bazillionaire in this company's stock in 1985. Like, oh, we found this. You've got a form of cancer.
Yeah. It's like,
we're 5 years away from a cure.
I mean, would any of us trade to be a pharaoh in ancient Egypt? The most powerful person in the world, as far as everybody you meet is concerned, the living God King. I wouldn't trade for it, because
especially
life expectancy of 35 years, no defense against diseases.
I think it would depend on what oils and spices they anointed me with, but I think probably not.
I mean, I don't have a sister, but I can't imagine she'd be that attractive. So having to marry her too.
All right. Cool. Well, you guys want to do some after things?
Yep.
All right. Then I'm going to count you in, Andrew, in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Hi.
and Mr. Brian Brushwood.
Ahoy, mateys.
Yar.
I want to point out right before we started, we had somebody in the chat who said, "Hey, I haven't seen Brian since he had the spiked hair days, and now you seem a lot more chill and etc." Which is also kind of relates to our topic we're going to talk about, and that is the idea of when your business model changes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This, of course, for anybody who's new, which I guess we have somebody who hasn't been around in a while, this is the portion of the program where we talk about what it's like to be an independent creator, an entrepreneur, how to make it, and what kind of tools, tricks, and tips we have for you.
Yeah. And so I think that you always have to be adapting. You always have to be sort of changing. And it's not like there's reactionary change where you're like, I got world's changing, I gotta adapt. And then there's more. I'm learning, I'm evolving. I know what I want to do now. And I went through that with writing. I started sci-fi and I got into mystery thriller and then got into other stuff. And it is hard when you are known for a thing or you have an audience for a thing, when people become very risk averse. Be very risk averse. And again, I would bring up, you talked the hair thing to death, but we've not talked about after things. Is like you go through a period where, like, when your audience was, let's say, colleges, you have a college market and what works there. But I noticed, like, when you started expanding bigger, when I saw you on like Nat Geo, when I saw you on broadcast TV, and I saw your brand growing and growing and growing, it's like, okay, I'm going to evolve. I'm going to grow into, kind of, I don't know how you describe it.
Well, one of the things people ask, like, why did you do that crazy hairdo back in the day? And you have to explain to many people that in a pre-social media age, it was entirely possible for you to swoop in, perform at a college for 300 to 500 people, and nobody would know who you are at the beginning of the program, but by the end of the program, you could get a legitimate standing ovation. They could say, this is the best, most outrageous, most unconventional magic show I've ever seen. And 1 year later, they would see a magician and they would casually say, oh, I saw a magician. He was here last year. Well, what can you tell me about him? I might know him because magic is all of 9 people wide. And they would say, he did this thing where like he knew the number they were thinking of, or he did a thing with some cards, and it's like, no, you needed something to stick. If you said there was a tall one and a short one, and they were both wearing suits, and one of them didn't talk, already everybody knows who I'm talking about. Whereas
Larry, Moe, and Carly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so you needed something, whether it was to always be wearing an outrageous, red jumpsuit and having a mohawk or whatever, you needed some kind of anchor, some kind of picture that would be sticky long afterwards, that people would be like, yes, that's the guy I saw. Nowadays, we have enhanced robots doing all that work for us in the form of Facebook likes and that stuff. But what worked in that market was figuring out an unmet demand, an unmet niche. There was already sort of a David Copperfield of college magic. There was an established guy who, if you wanted the David Copperfield style experience, this guy had all the colleges. He was doing it year after year after year. But there was no kind of rejection of that. There was no Penn and Teller of the college market. And so that's why I crafted the style, made sure to call it bizarre magic, made sure to all the marketing reflected that it's a rejection. This is Pepsi to Magic's Coke in this market. And that worked really well in person. Every time I got in a Southwest Airlines flight, the ridiculous spikes would make people smile. They would immediately ask, oh, what do you do? And conversations would start. But that power dynamic shifted once you step in front of a camera, because the mere act of being on the camera suggests a certain level of authority. And what in person looked like punching up suddenly looked like punching down. And I think not to get too political on it, but I think the same thing that has worked for Trump in the past when he was punching up to established authority is not as good a look right now as he's the sitting president of the United States. And it lands with a lot of people as him punching down. And so likewise, it took me a few years when magic touring was still my day job, and doing Scam School on YouTube was just sort of a side gig. It's like, no, I can't. It's a very dedicated hairstyle. I can't undo it. And so I just got used to people being like, what's with this guy? I don't like him. And then eventually they were like, he's pretty great. And of course, what happened was the moment the moment I made being in front of the camera my full-time job, it's like, okay, it's time for a more palatable, more humble, less screamy looking hairstyle, at which point everybody in the chat immediately said, bring back the spikes.
Yeah. And we still get,
It-
we always get people who are like, oh, I remember you from the spiky hair days.
Well, and by the way, that's the key phrase is they remember because it stuck out.
It's the power. It is I got it, and I knew how powerful it was when I saw other people try to copy it. And I think that was and it was one of those like I got it. I mean, because I met you back then. I think as we first met like this, and you're doing college shows. I remember thinking to myself, oh, this guy gets it. Like this, you're going to remember this guy. Everybody else doing that market does the same damn chicks, the same damn stuff. Hey, I need a lighter. Put it in the pitcher full of lighters. Thanks. About fills it up. Whatever kind of stuff. And the things become so. You kind of like they mix together, but I'm like, oh, this guy stands out. And I thought that was really clever. And your point you made about once you were on camera, once you're doing TV, once you got to that next level, you're like, yeah, I don't need this now because I am established enough here that I don't have to, that is a very clever sort of thing. And that's what changes.
The way I think of it is it's sort of a push-pull. When you are, let's say, relatively powerless, just getting started, relative nobody in whatever market it is, then what you want to do is find the smallest, most precise, most unoccupied territory in that, and you want to own it. You want to be a laser to exactly own this territory where nobody can question that, oh, you want something crazy with blood and guts and nails and eyes and stuff. All of a sudden, the pool to draw from goes down to 2 or 3 people, and in which case, I'll just have to be the most professional of those 3 people to get the gig.
Yeah.
And then the moment you get established, then what you want to do once you have a platform, then you want to widen the base, which is exactly what we saw with Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller fueled their career with the theatrical conceit. I don't want to confuse it for the actual attitude of hating on magicians, but the theatrical conceit of being the bad boys of magic. And they laser targeted being the opposite of Copperfield. And then as they've gotten a platform, look at how they've widened the circle. Now Fool Us is the premier destination for magicians of all stripes to go and get amazing footage for their demo reel and get exposed to a bigger audience. They started counterculture and they became culture. And so likewise, once you get a platform, you want to do, you don't want to go crazy, but you want to stay focused, but you want to widen the tent.
One of my kind of favorite moments when you knew they'd kind of like Penn and Teller had crossed over was going to see a David Copperfield show live, and he did the vanish in a TV camera trick, and he makes this TV camera vanish, and you're watching it on a screen where you see the point of view of the camera, and it goes staticky, and the next thing you know is you see it's actually Tim White, who worked for David, is the camera guy next to the camera on the balcony, and then Penn and Teller are there, and they're like, we took the cammer or whatever. And it was a very funny
that's
bit
great
to see that, like, yeah, they're like there. I was like, no, it's all show business, folks. It's all what they're trying to go at. And like, yeah, I went through that with going from sci-fi to mystery, where I said, okay, how do I grow into this other audience? So again, I love just hearing you explain that, though, talking about like once I was at that other level, that the signaling didn't work for me, would work against me.
Well, and I think it's really interesting how you started with such a narrow genre I'm probably getting the labels wrong, but is it sci-fi techno thrillers that like because you think of you got books and then a smaller circle for sci-fi and then a smaller circle for techno and thrillers.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I did was Grindel Shadow, which was like future steampunk sci-fi. Then I did techno thriller with Public Enemy Zero, kind of techno thriller horror. But then I did several novels, novellas and stuff that were sci-fi. And then Angel Killer, which was really mystery thriller. That was the one that was sort of like, that was the one like, okay, this is where this is my future.
Yeah.
Well, we got an email. Do you want to?
Yeah, and the reason I brought all this up is because we've had a person we've talked to before who's now built a platform. Now they've got a thing, and now that thing is when you decide to make that change, it's not easy. It is not easy because this has worked so far. I think I need to go where I need to do, and so that'll segue into that. And Bryce, if you actually want to read it,
sure.
I like your voice better.
This is from a longtime writer into the show, David Potts. Hey guys, a question about Patreon. 2 years after launching my page, I'm up to 3,000 plus paying supporters,
Wow! Congratulations! That's tremendous.
which feels both amazing and mega humbling. As great as this is, there's a rising anxiety that I am undercharging and leaving money on the table. Should the size of my audience affect how generous/greedy I am when it comes to how much I charge? Some quick context: I make free educational guitar videos on YouTube, and on Patreon offer illustrated chord sheet PDFs, about 1 to 2 new PDFs a week. There are over 200 of those at his website, playsongnotes.com. I've been charging $3 a month this whole time for access to everything. When my library was small, this seemed fine, but with over 200 PDFs now available, am I a sucker for not having upped the price? I'm of the mind to sunset the $3 tier and keep current patrons grandfathered in and up the minimum pledge to $5 a month. I also want to explore selling PDFs a la carte separate from Patreon, which would probably be in the $3 range, which this $5 a month plan seems to complement. Should I run, don't walk to capture the money I'm leaving on the table, or should I not be in a hurry to rock the boat? Thank you for all you do. You've answered my questions over the past 4 to 5 years. That's right. And you've helped me grow from 17,000 YouTube subs to the point where I can start planning on taking this full time. Thanks to Brian and everybody. Congrats, David Potts.
So the first thing that pops out of my mind is that what I'm not hearing is an intermediate step. Before you raise the price for everyone, and maybe it is time to raise the price for everyone, especially if you plan to grandfather some people in, because as that library grows, it's all evergreen content. It's going to be super valuable and continue to be so. But what I'm not hearing is the Starbucks model. The reason Starbucks became such a success is because they took an essentially free commodity of coffee, something that at most was 99 cents at every corner store and was the same everywhere you went, give or take. And what they did was, depending on the means of the customer, they invested in atmosphere, a place to work, and then their model was they allowed you, if you wanted to figure out a way to spend $25 on a single cup of coffee with constant upgrades and bundles or whatever. And so that's, ask yourself, because this is, and we've talked a little bit about this. We talk about how attention is what you're exchanging for money, and it's the real estate in people's minds. It's important that you remember it's three-dimensional real estate. It's not a case where you count the number of heads and that's how much attention you've captured, because in those 3,000 heads, there are some number of them that you are deeply loved and others that you are surface loved. And for all the people who are surface loved, you appear to have the pricing exactly right. But what it sounds to me like you're not doing at all is giving any way for somebody to figure out how to give you $100 a month. So I would say before you tinker with that, find out how deep things go. Because one of the things, when it comes to story, you could tell kind of how good or bad a story is based on how people react to it. When it comes to money, you just look at your account and you know how much money you have. When it comes to the real estate in people's minds, the only way to find out how deep that affection goes is to offer something at various levels. So that's why whenever we do a new push for things, we try to think through of, for example, we did the mystery boxes. They're $49.95 each, and we put them together. And so we've been doing these weekly updates. And then near the end of it, we've had people who've been following week after week as their product is being put together, and we're assembling it for them.
These are emails, by the way.
Yes. And then we just hit them up with like, hey, we're coming up on just a couple of weeks till we send yours out. Would you like to give us money for a signed photograph? And again, the temptation is to say $10 for a photograph. All I got to do is sign my name on it. That's great. That's like bonus stuff. But as counterintuitive as it was, we said, there are people for whom their affection is deeper and money is a different animal. So what we did is we had 3 different styles of photograph: gentleman, warrior, and scoundrel. So you could either choose which of those 3 you wanted for $10, or buy all 3 for $30. Not even a discount, no bundling, nothing of that. Just like, hey, if you would like that. So in that case, that was us testing the waters of how many of these people have a deep gravity well of affection in the real estate in their mind. And I want to say like 2/3 of everyone bought at least one, and half of those bought all 3. Which is, number one, deeply gratifying, but also it gives us key information about what we have, and also the high margins on those help keep us afloat. So, by the way, thank you to everybody who bought a photo. It's awesome.
For a little extra context, he does have a kind of like an extra tip level on his Patreon. He's got the $3 a month that he mentioned, and if people are so inclined, they can up that to $10 a month. There's not a premium product attached to that at the moment, but that is a little bit of information.
Somewhere
David
out there
has.
in 3,000 people, it is a statistical certainhood that somebody wants to give you $100 a month, and you, as of now, have not figured. It doesn't appear that you've made it easy for them to do that. They have to really work. And like you know, we on Night Attack, we set up a you know, 4 Horse Boys tier at $50 per episode. These are people who are given, you know, $200 a month, and we make it clear. It's like, we don't expect you to give that forever, but if you're feeling it, and if you want to brag to everyone that you were, you know, like a member of the Supreme Court, you were a horse boy for a while, you'll be special, because it lets me know that you care the most.
I would say 2 things. I agree with all those points, and I would say I do think that, like, as Brian pointed out too, like the fact that you'll grandfather in the people at the $3 level. I think a $5 level, I would say try it just to see what happens, and you might, if you can think of another perk that you could throw in there that might make $3 people want to jump to 5. The goal is to not have too much work for you, because as everybody knows, running Patrons and having levels and stuff gets tedious in trying to manage it. The $100 level, 100%. And I was thinking that you could do a thing. It might be like, hey, yeah, twice a month, I bring 8 people together virtually, and we session together. We help people. I listen to people. We sort of as a group kind of thing. That could be, or maybe 100 might be too cheap. I don't know, but that could be extremely attractive. Is to say, like, my $100 level is like, you get access to me with some other people.
And even if it's like maybe built into the $100 tier is anytime you want, once per month, I will dedicate a half hour on one-on-one with you. Just send in a note. And number one, you'll be astonished at how many people want to buy the option to grab your ear whenever they want it, but will not act on it. It's sort of like a gym membership. So you're not actually screwing with your time. But also the grandfathering thing, man, I think about how long I refused to mess with my AT&T tiers because I was grandfathered into unlimited, and years after I should have switched to some other tier they had, something about being grandfathered and knowing that it was special, it was like nobody wants to give that up. So weirdly, I think you're 100% right, Andrew. By raising it to 5, he essentially locks in everybody at 3 forever, because nobody's going to want to give that up.
Right.
Well, I think if he adds, I said that if he adds a special thing, I got a $5. I'm granted freezing too, $5 tier plus this other thing. You might get people that jump if they see that extra benefit. And remember, people love him. We do not love AT&T. We think they're trying to cheat us at every single moment.
Right.
And so that's always like, what's this deal? It's like your insurance calls you up. Your insurance agent calls up. Oh, I can save you money on this. I'm like, there's a catch here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're sitting there going, how do I take less money from my clients?
I think one thing, the way David's stuff is set up now, is the one thing that I really do appreciate is just the dead simplicity of it. Hey, I have this pool. You can go into the pool for $3 a month. That is the end. That is the transaction here. There's not figuring out what type of thing I want. There's no, do I want the upsell? Do I want this? Do I want, like, it's very, that's what I like about our friend Mikey Newman. Like the Film Joy Movies with Mikey Patreon is very simple. There are 3 levels. They're very clear delineations. I think you do have some wiggle room to say, here's an additional type of content, or here's an additional type of access that someone might get. And I think, raising, I think if you make a whole big thing of like, hey, $3 is going away soon. There's a $5 there now, but if you want to get on the $3, you need to get on that before X date.
That's really good, because you'll get a push right this minute, and you won't begrudge any of it because it's not sacrificing any of your actual time right now.
Right.
And everyone's going to feel really good. I think that is a good play to do, like, right this minute. I agree.
And with the way Patreon works, you have no choice but to grandfather people in. Like with Cord Killers and Night Attack, where we had early Patreon accounts where you didn't have the
One
$1
penny.
transaction.
We had 1 penny
Minimum.
patrons.
Right. And we still have many of them. Cord Killers' lowest paying Patreon at this moment is still Brant Hughes at 1 cent per episode. And I see it every week.
Kid Flint Brant.
That's amazing.
But that's how long. I mean, that dollar minimum has been around for years, and so all of those people have been locked in for such a long time that as long as you keep, I think you can get a really strong like, hey, we're turning. I gotta raise the price here. Get in on $3 now. You got 30 days. You got 60 days. Whatever. Go.
I would consider too, because looking at the levels here, like there is no reason to go to 10 other than your gratitude, which you need, even though people like it, they have to, one part of their brain goes, yes, I like you, I want to do this, but another part of their brain wants an excuse. I want some excuse to do this, something I may never use. And I would consider, just as a thought, you might go grandfather people 3, add your $5 tier, move the be part of the Song Notes community to the $10 tier. So you're
set up a Discord where you're linking like-minded people who are all fans.
Well, he has that.
Oh,
he has
okay,
that
great.
already.
That I'm gonna assume that's what that $3 tier is, and then at that, my only worry with that is you're going to be taking people out of that community. You're going to be ripping people away.
Let me explain this again, because clearly you didn't get what I said.
Oh, okay.
Let me explain this again. All right. No, the new tier system. Create a 5. Everybody is that $3 tier that stays the same. Remember, they're all grandfathered there. Okay. The new tier system is $5 tier, but take that out of that tier.
Got it.
3 goes to 5. Take that out of the tier and put it in the $10 tier.
But everybody who's currently in the Cool Club house stays
Still
in
there.
the Cool Club house.
Stay there. They're still there. Nobody's kicked out.
But
Everybody has a home.
Only new people have to pay the and so everybody who's in the Cool Clubhouse, the perceived value is like, man, I'm in this Cool Clubhouse and it costs 3 times as much as what I'm paying.
Just a thought. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all.
Yeah, I and we don't know how their Discord is set up. I would have some concerns about that if there are a lot of people there and that's a major hub for them. But I understand what you're saying.
Well, the idea is to limit. The idea is if you guys are already there in your forum, they're part of it. Then any newcomers come in here, they now got to pay $10 to get this thing that the supporters, the hardcores, are there before.
This is the moment that what kicks into gear. And if we were wrestling with this kind of decision with either scam stuff or a Modern Rogue thing, what I would probably do is set up a Google form and I would make content out of it and just ask your audience. Just say, hey, if it was like this, good or bad, thumbs up, thumbs down. Keep it simple. Just click yes, click no. And it could be that 90% of everyone's like, man, it would be so awesome if this was an ultra elite clubhouse. Yes, please do that. And other people would be like, no, I want my friends to get in here easily. No. And asking questions, nobody ever resents. Nobody ever gets bugged out about.
I would open it up to leave an open-ended part. What would you like to see? Because I've been doing for OpenAI, I've been doing developer interviews and I go talk to 30 people about stuff. And I have a forum. I use a Google form. I ask them the stuff. But then I'm like, oh, what else? That what else is some of the most important signal I get is, oh, here's the thing I need. Here's the thing I need. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think to put that in my form. And you can let people create what you need to do for you.
That's an important kind of general philosophy to have, is to know that for a fact, you are not smarter than a sample of 100 other people. No matter what the question is, 100 other people, one of them is going to have a better idea than whatever it is, especially when it comes to setting prices or asking questions about or having benefits and all that stuff. So whenever possible, at least take the temperature because, for example, here's something that we did. We had a new product on the Scam Stuff store. We had no idea what the market would bear. We knew that we were the only ones who had it. And so what we did was we sent out an email saying, hey, here's the new thing. Here's what it looks like. Here's everything. And we said, we're going to play a game. Each one of you guess what the default price on this is going to be. Whoever's closest will get one for free. And then we took all the data and then we set a price and whoever was closest got one for free. And I don't think anyone begrudged any of that, but essentially we took a sample and then we knew exactly what the market would bear.
I love the idea too that they'd be like, the person who won it was $50, and like, congratulations, you got it right. Unfortunately, you said $50, and if I give it to you for free, then you're going to be wrong about your guess. So, no prize.
Well,
Sorry.
and also, and really, it didn't determine the price. What it did is it gave us data on the perceived value so that we could come in significantly underneath it so that people would be happy.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Again, yeah, it's all, yeah, that you don't want your community lashing out against you. And I think that, asking them, giving them a say is probably the smarter approach here. But like I was saying before, like I was just trying to simplify things to say, like, instead of having the guy having to create new products and new stuff of like how to reorganize stuff, because it becomes, I think there's a lot of stuff we probably promise our listeners, the engagement and stuff, that we're not as,
Oh yeah, that's the
engaged
one
with
thing
as
you
we
must
should
not
be.
do is make promises on behalf of future you, because future you will never have the time for them.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, for the $100 level, I would say, like, probably my suggestion would be like, oh, like every other Saturday, I spend 2 hours and you can get access to the session, because letting people say, hey, I want 30 minutes of your time, whatever I want.
Yeah, no,
Brian,
you're
would
right.
you make
You're
that
right.
deal?
Yeah.
Would you? So it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard because, like, but that's amazing what he's built. Amazing.
Yeah.
3,000 Patreons.
Please let us know right back in, David, how that goes for you. I'm sure he doesn't need any prodding, but if anybody else wants to get this helpful, very lucrative information, we have the email information in the show notes.
Gosh, yeah, are clear as mud. I don't know. Ask your fans.
No, we
had some nuggets along
we're not
the way.
even asking a commission. Okay.
Well, I mean, at least take the temperature. At least know what their expectations are. Is kind of my
Yeah,
point.
no, it's all great. It's all great, all great. Again, anything, my snap was just because, like, I'm like, oh, I don't want this to be too complicated, because everything I do falls apart when I'm like, I'm going to do this level here and this level here, and that's like, you watch Kickstarter headache is like, there's too few levels and there's too many, and then it's just, the math.
Hey, if we could go on to picks, have you gotten on the Lower Decks train yet, Andrew?
Big fan.
Okay,
best,
good.
Best Star Trek. My inflammatory Twitter. Best Trek Next Generation.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And man, that last episode. Did you see the season finale? On the one hand, hard left turn. Also, the most exciting Star Trek episode since the Next Generation. I mean, it was really remarkable.
I was really taken how the spectacle of that story was better than all of the other ones in the season so far. I have misgivings about the ending of it, but we could talk about that more in spoiling time. But I thought it was great. I thought it was, especially after last week's, parody of all the movies.
Yeah.
And
that you were not in on the joke on for some of them.
This one felt like really riveting, really exciting. And probably because it was the finale, you definitely felt more like, oh, like anything could really happen. Like something actually substantial could happen. And then who knows if it did.
The thing that I like, it's amazing because it's got this like low rating. Like you look at like from a lot of Trek fans, like, you put jokes in my Star Trek.
Oh, dude, they're all crazy and they're all wrong.
They are all wrong. And I'm not going to pick on some other Star Trek show right now, but I'm like, those characters are dumb. They are dumb characters. If you ask me, why did they do this episode? Why did this? And you get like, oh, just because. Like, that's how you explain away. There are very competent people working on the show, and I don't know what demands on them, but like, that's how you explain lazy writing, is when you go, oh, it's just a show. It's just a show.
Like,
relax,
well, because we had this set piece that we really wanted to work in, and so we needed to have a just because reason.
And it's like, oh, well, we're going to be a very forward-thinking show. I'm like, yeah, you haven't done anything I didn't see on Next Generation as far as moving. You're very 2015, with where you want to be on stuff. Like
it does feel like the backstory. Jokes aside, Lower Decks really feels like a return to form to the Next Generation. They keep it simple, and I don't know. The structure seems very old school centric.
I would say they use as a template, but I'd say the characters are even smarter and more well done to an extent. I mean, some of them are a little bit character types, but like, I I'll never. It's a cartoon by the director from Rick and Morty, and I'm never going. Why is this character doing this week? Why are they doing this? Like, how are they in Starfleet? I'm watching a cartoon, and anytime you see something like first, early on, um, with Mariner, she'd be doing stuff. You'd be like, oh wow, and then there was a price to pay for that. Like, oh wow, no, that's not just for the joke. Like, there's going to be a price to be paid for this. I dig it. Like I just it's good writing.
They could have done if the pitch was Star Trek but funny. You could very easily make the whole world out of rubber. Nobody ever gets killed. Nothing ever happens. It's just a way to string a bunch of jokes together. But I love the fact that, like, I totally believe that dude's dead. I totally believe that that there's real consequences. I totally believe that they're gonna stick to things and they're not gonna reset everything every single episode. I mean, that's something that you don't have to do, but is very, very welcome and very appreciated to these eyes.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things we've talked about before is like one of the ways in which some of the best content you ever get are from people who are so familiar with genre they can do parody. Like, you look at the Russo brothers and what they've done with the Avengers and Marvel, and these are guys that worked on Arrested Development, or these are guys who worked on, did
they do? Are they the ones that did the Community paintball sequences that later showed up in, or that was the legend is, I don't know if this is true or not, but that that some of the fight sequences of the paintball Community stuff was what they did before Captain America. Am I remembering that right? I don't know if that was them.
Maybe, but they get it. And like, I would say that, like, in like Marcus and McFeely, the guys who were doing some of the best Marvel screenplays, you just see that sort of understanding about A Fistful of Paintballs. Yeah. And so I think that's what I love about Lower Decks, because like McMahon, the guy who's the showrunner for it, like, the problem you see in other shows, like the reason, like, I think the Star Wars movies started to suck, and I think the Star Trek movies didn't reach as much as they could. And not saying there's any one person to blame for it, but they were all treated like, oh, this is the genre. The genre is Star Trek, or the genre is Star Wars. And it's like, no, Wrath of Khan is not a Star Trek movie.
No, it's Das Boot. I mean, it's a submarine warfare. It's the best submarine warfare movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's this revenge thing. It's not this, and that's what makes this stuff great. Is like, no, like, these are characters and these are people, and this is a milieu. But these Marvel hit its high notes when it says, okay, we're gonna do a European road trip movie with scrolls and I mean, that's Mysterio, and that's what makes it awesome. Is they go, okay, we get this, but really we're doing this genre. We're going to take the complications of that genre and bring it here, and not the complications of Star Trek. Well, you're going to have the Klingons show up, and then you're going to have those pesky this. It's like, no, it's not it. And that's when you see really bad writing, is they don't get that you're in another genre.
I've got a pick ahead of the Apple announcement, so I don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. But I've had this for a few months now, and I have been really enjoying having the HomePod in my apartment. I don't have one of the Echo devices or a Google device. I have an iPhone and an iPad and stuff, so that all kind of works in together. I don't use this in the way that I think people use, like, the Echo devices or the Google devices. I'm not asking it things all the time.
God, it's always the weather with me. I'm fresh out of the shower, and I shout across the room to find out what the weather is going to be today.
The big thing is, so I use the Apple TV in my living room to watch things, and I can use this as a speaker, and it'll automatically connect, and it's got way more bass than my dumb TV from a few years ago has. So I've enjoyed it just even in that usage. And yeah, I can ask it some things. I don't ask it I ask it for the news, or for the weather, or set an alarm, play music.
I just love the way you're like, oh, I can ask it for the news or set an alarm like you plebes do.
No.
But like,
that's what I do.
But I like the more, I guess, the deeper voice assistant stuff that the other ones really excel in, of like, hey, find the specific product and buy it or whatever.
Why is Bryce so mean to me?
I'm really not. I'm not missing. I'm not wanting for those. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's been a strong addition to my living room space. And possibly we're recording this on Monday. They supposedly might announce a mini HomePod. The one thing I do enjoy a lot about the HomePod that I don't know that my experience with other devices has been is when it's playing music, I can still talk to it, or I can still give it a command, which when I've been at places where they have like a Google Home, and if they're playing music, they can't call out to it to stop it or anything, or they have to use their phone.
Yeah, the Echo device will hear its trigger word and then drop the music and like what's that you're saying? Which works most of the time.
I have found that for the HomePod, as long as it's not at 100%, the big thing is if the music's at 100%, then you're really not going to get. But that's loud. You know, the HomePod is kind of a bigger speaker. I can ask it stuff, and it doesn't need to cut into the volume or anything, and it does a good job of picking that up across devices. If I've got my AirPods in, it'll do that there instead of on the speaker. Or if I don't know, I found it to be a good addition. And I got it on sale. You can find them on sale every so often.
I would love some kind of analysis, and I suppose it's got to be out there. Somebody must have been doing this. But I feel like there's an arms race to fill out personality for the various robot assistants. And I am very pleased with the Echo Assistant in that I keep trying to come up with weirder things to see if somebody has bothered to do it. Like just in the middle of cooking, Halloween was coming up and my kid was around. So I asked the Echo device to tell me a scary story. And I just said, tell me a scary story. And sure enough, they had not just one, but like 5 different iterations of 1-minute stories with kind of a cute surprise ending at the end. And you could say weird stuff like, there's the out in Bonnie's shed. There's a device, and I just said start playing haunted house sounds, and then it just kept going.
Oh my god, that's awesome!
My favorite is to trigger the device, and on my way out the door, just say play Baby Shark. But man, no, I love the personality race that's happening.
That's interesting because I don't have that personality attachment to it. I have no cutesy relationship to my pod.
Well, there's the fun thing about the Echo devices is that they do put a ton of cool, like, what else you can do. Like that, it's amazing. I didn't know you could do that. I'm not surprised. My favorite thing about, again, Apple fanboy here, but my favorite thing about the Echo, though, is, of course, Audible. I could just go to bed at night. I play my audiobooks, tell it to go to sleep, tell it to sleep after 15 minutes or end a chapter. Oh man, like that's like magic to me that I get a robot reads a story to me at night.
That is pretty good. Well, and also, of course, Audible, it synchronizes over your devices. And if you're reading it on a Kindle, you're reading it some of the time, you're audiobooking it some of the time.
Mm-hmm. And a funny thing too is, like, I go to my dentist office and they use Echo devices. And you sort of have your attachment to yours. And I remember, like, I'm sitting in the chair and the hygienist plays some music, and I just go, I go Echo device name, play some, Led Zeppelin, and I got this look like, yeah, I know, I just told your robot what to do because it's the same as my robot, and
that is something I would like to see, is the ability to increasingly personalize the trigger words, because I think right now there's only like 2 or 3 choices you get.
Yeah, mine. Well, also it does. They're getting better recognizing voices. Like mine, does yours greet you by name? Because like mine was like, "Oh, good morning, Andrew."
No. Well, if it did, it would say, "Hello, Bizarre Magic Inc. consignment."
Well, but you can add. They're getting, like, I don't know where the feature is, but like the idea is to have different people in the household.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is. It's hard for me to want to invest heavily on that to empower my 3 agents of chaos that live under the same roof as me. But so for right now, I'm just happily on default everything.
Yeah, but the advantage of that will eventually be that, like, you could, if it's my voice, you can do this. If it's their voice.
I would imagine voice print analysis is going to become increasingly important, because I know that when we're doing Night Attack, I'm able to yell back before Justin was wearing headphones all the time, I could yell, trigger his Echo device, and I would shout trigger word, buy toilet paper, and then I would hear from the other room, it would say, buying toilet paper right now. And he was like, no.
How weird is it that we're in a world now where we will not say the name because it will summon it?
Yes, well, and either for us, or for listeners at home, and it's a courtesy thing.
Yeah, it's I'm saying that's the amazing part is like we've reached this like the 3 words you don't say on TV. That's kind. Well, you can say Cortana because nobody's using it, but I think that's.
Whoa! What a
That's
random
fair.
moment for just a side shiv to Microsoft.
But yeah, no, but I mean, that's the sort of thing. Like this is how like witchcraft came about in like magic believing societies and stuff. Is that like we whatever, I don't know.
That's awesome.
I'm going to say some Latin phrase someday out of the Necronomicon, and it's going to be like, "Would you like to order more toilet paper?"
The last thing is it's HomeKit. Like I have HomeKit stuff in my home, and so I can just say, turn on the living room or set the lights to this, and that's kind of nice because I know my parents have some Echo devices, and trying to set stuff up within the app for that is really messy. So it's nice that I have a thing for my own ecosystem of stuff.
Oh man, I just saw the time. I'm gonna have to bolt here pretty quick.
Okay, well we can.
All right, my pick, everybody, is I picked this last time. I'm going to reiterate it for everybody in After Things. If you're only listening to the show, check out Notion.so. It is a wonderful platform, allows you to take notes. You can create web pages. You can do documents, share them with your groups, whatever. It's super easy to use. It is a very, very well thought out. Like I said, it feels like this is something that people thought of, like, how do you solve the problems of today? And it doesn't feel like a decade-old product like everybody else has. And it works on mobile, works really well across, devices. Like I said, you can put spreadsheets, tables, all sorts of stuff in there. You can share it with people. You can create a document and download it as a PDF. Very, very, very powerful for creation and workspace, etc.
Cool.
Right on. Hey man, good After Things.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been after.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
So, one of the side effects of going to bed early is number one, I cannot watch Lovecraft Country right before bed, and then getting up and working out means I don't watch it in the morning, which means I have to go watch it right now if I'm going to talk about it in a few hours on Cord Killers.
Okay.
I'll see you guys.
Go. Bye. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for
Thank you,
hanging
Brian.
out. Brian's going to be back in about half an hour for happy hour. We got Cord Killers at 6 Central here. And then all sorts of good stuff the rest of the week. Andrew at Andrew Main on Twitter. Any live streams? You haven't done a live stream in a minute, right?
Nah, I got a day job.
Yeah, you're busy. Just follow him. Get the new book. You have a new list. You got a listing. You got a page already for the new book, right? For the new collabo, for the crossover.
Yeah, that's gonna. It doesn't come out for another year, but leave it to Amazon to push that. Awesome, power to them. So yeah,
I bet it's probably a good thing to let people know, like, hey, there's gonna be even more in these properties, right?
This is between us and everybody here. I've had a great relationship because like the pre-sales are fantastic for stuff, and so like I kind of like, it's a book. Like, well, I know before it releases, I can tell you like what the trajectory is, so it's exciting and that's a great thing.
Nice.
Something to get into too. Like, we should say that's an After Things topic too. Is talk about like we talked that before about like, hey, people shouldn't find out about your Kickstarter literally the day of your Kickstarter, and often when you want to put a thing out there, people are like, hey everybody, and like, well, there's an invisible hand. It takes a while.
That's good. I know I would have questions for that topic. Alrighty, well, that's gonna do it here for the stream. We'll be back. They'll be back in about half hour, happy hour. Cord Killers later. Have a good one,
guys.
Bye. Thank you, Andrew.
You're not that dramatic, but I'm my own